Next up in our Lion Legend segment, we're catching up with former UNA soccer player, a four-year letterman, three-time captain and all-Gulf South Conference pick as a freshman, Alison Woodman Schmalberger. Alison, thanks for catching up with us. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
We're going to jump into your career at North Alabama. We're going to talk about your post-UNA career. But first off, just give UNA fans an update on sort of where you're located today.
Yeah, I am up in Cromwell, Connecticut, working from home these days as of mid-March. I work for ESPN on the content business optimization side.
So we're going to talk about how you went from Sarasota, Florida to UNA to ESPN. But first, reflecting back as we jump into your UNA career, athletically, the campus as a whole, just what does UNA mean to you?
UNA was my jumping off point into a career that I love, the passion for sports that I have. It gave me a sense of community, the teammates that I had, the athletic department that supported me, and the doctors and professors that really were my cheerleaders as I progressed through UNA and ultimately got a job with ESPN.
All right, so let's go back to 2004. You're from Sarasota, Florida. You're going through the recruitment process. UNA's head soccer coach, Graham Winkworth, he's in his second season at UNA. What was it like making the decision to come to UNA? What was the ultimate factor leading to that decision?
Yeah, so I came up for my recruiting visit. I stayed with still a long-term friend of mine, Julia Garavaglia. It was a great time. We had a lot of meet and greets with different athletes. Showed us the campus. Florence was new to me. I'd never been to Alabama before, let alone at the university. And Coach had a vision. We were his very first recruiting class. He came in. He didn't have time to recruit in his year prior, so we were his first, foray into that. And it was homey. It felt just right, basically. I got home from the airport, and my dad was like, "What do you think?" I'm like, I want to go. It just felt right for me to go after seeing a couple of other college campuses. I wanted to get out of state, not because I had a terrible high school experience, but because I felt the need to get out of Florida and seeing a lot of my high school friends at other universities. So that there was a variety of factors, but it was kind of a gut feeling that I went off of, and I didn't look back.
Your first ever collegiate soccer match against Cumberland, UNA wins that game 4-0. And I don't know if you remember this. You scored 2 goals in your first career game. A lot of people, goals in soccer are tough to come by, but how special is it now thinking back to scoring 2 in your collegiate debut?
Yeah, the most vivid memory I have, it was becoming sunset, the lights were on, I was all sweaty and giddy, and I called my parents because obviously they're back home in Florida. They tried to make it up to as many games as possible in the fall, but a few trips. And I remember calling them and telling them, and they were floored. So it was certainly exciting and a good way to kick off my career there.
Jumping into your sophomore year, you were named a team captain, something you were 3-time team captain going up to your senior year. And again, that C badge that you get as a soccer captain's a big deal. Just how much pride did you take in that, being so young?
Yeah, it was really an honor to be voted by our teammates. That was how Coach did it. He said, put in your vote. Cressa Gibson and I were the voted captains as sophomores. It gave me confidence to continue to be me and lead how I thought a leader should be on a team in terms of putting in the work and being a good example. So it meant a lot to me, and it's certainly something that even people up at ESPN noticed, either whether it's what was my resume when I was trying to get in for an internship and ultimately my job, but I still have it. And as I bounce around and talk to people and they say, hey, send me your resume, I'm so proud to put that team captain badge in there, and they take note of it too. So it's certainly something that I'm proud of.
16 career goals scored, 19 assists, the 3-time captain. All-Gulf South Conference pick as a freshman. What else sticks out to you about your soccer career at UNA?
The friendships I gathered across the team and the best friends that I have still to this day, we keep in touch, visit each other. That was really what it was all about for me. I knew I wasn't going to be a U.S. all-team soccer player and go on to a career in soccer beyond that. So I was looking for something to keep me grounded in college, make some friends, have some fun. And so it certainly did that. It held me accountable for my classes for sure. And the athletic department as a whole gave me access that as a communications major, I was able to do and have projects and help kind of springboard me to a career at ESPN that it just helped me become well-rounded.
Graham Winkworth had a lot of success. He's taken off. Chris Walker took over the program now in the Division I era. As a soccer alum, what's it been like watching the program take off and have the run that it's had?
Proud. Even right after I left, Graham started to take the program up and away, which kind of makes us look back and be like, man, how bad were we that as soon as he got rid of us, he was able to really shoot it up to where it is today. But I think the big thing for me is I was a part of ESPN Plus launching a couple years ago, and me being able to fire up my Apple TV my Amazon Fire Stick and be able to find a UNA soccer match on E Plus was awesome. To be able to see that up in Connecticut and have access to it on a big platform like that. So it's kudos to the team, kudos to the athletic department and the conference overall for getting that up on the platform. And so it's great to follow along and have a lot of pride.
Now we're about to jump into your run at ESPN, but before that, academically at UNA, just how much did the comm department, the communications department, help prepare you and get you to where you are?
Yeah, they were so supportive in any sort of project we took on, any sort of dream we had. I remember telling Dr. Foote at the time, like, hey, I'm going to try and get an internship at ESPN. And I think at that point, as a sophomore, it could have been laughable. And he was like, that's fantastic. Let me know how I can help you. And there was always a support system between Dr. Mack, Dr. Sanders, Dr. Foote that were just always in my corner. And it wasn't me particularly, it was all the students, all the people that I had around me. Everyone was cheering on each other. We all wanted everybody to succeed. So I'm extremely grateful to that department as a whole and where they got me off to from a confidence perspective and just the general support.
So let's jump into your ESPN career now. I mean, what led up to you getting the job at ESPN?
I interned the summer before. The summer before that, I had an internship at CNN where I kind of just networked and bounced around and ended up meeting a producer that worked for the Braves. And he had a former career at ESPN. So he was someone I stayed in touch with. He helped me get my foot in the door in terms of just meeting people at ESPN and sending emails and communications. And so once I had that internship and I was there, I made it known that I had one semester left of college. As soon as I finish that, I'm done in September. I'm ready to come back up to work. And I made that very clear throughout my entire summer. And as soon as I left, I continued to stay in touch with the ESPN folks that I worked with. And they interviewed me in October, basically gave me a job and said, it will be ready and waiting for you. And graduated on Friday and started work up in Bristol on Monday.
You've had an outstanding career at UNA. I want to jump into some of the highlights, but first take UNA fans through some of the various hats you've worn and the various roles you've had at the Worldwide Leader.
Yeah, so I started as a production assistant. Really whatever a production needs done on the event side, so going and traveling to site and covering games, packing bins, sending tapes, cutting teases, cutting B-roll highlights of any player that they want to highlight during the game, any storylines that are relevant, pitching ideas of my own, doing graphics, so getting the ability to travel. That was the first about 3.5 years. It was a lot of travel. I kind of started looking at myself to understand what my long-term dream was at the company. I knew I want to stay here. I want to retire from this company. I love it. But it's a matter of what works for me and my family. So from there, I moved over to programming and acquisitions. I was there for a couple years. I worked on the college hoops team. Essentially what they do is they're the first door in for ESPN for all leagues and conferences who want to ultimately have events and distribute content on our air. So there for a couple years, got some reps in. I missed the content side. I missed the weeds a little bit of what's going on our air between the shows and the events. So I moved back over to a team called Ad Sales Integration. They worked with sales and production. They were kind of the liaisons, middleman Switzerland between sales wanted something in our content, in studio shows, wanted our talent to reference something. What does that look like? How can we execute? And production, being able to get that done for them. So I was on that team for about 6 years. It expanded from just TV to all platforms. So we went to multimedia sponsorship integration. That's when I jumped onto the Watch ESPN side. I learned more about technology and our product team, our app, how you get sponsorships and integrations and deals integrated into those platforms. And then ESPN Plus launch, same concept in terms of trying to get stuff within that platform to help our ad sales partners. And then within the last year, I transitioned over to content business operations. That was something that I reached out to the SVP who was overseeing both our teams at the time and said, hey, I'm interested. I know I'm good in certain areas, but I know I'm very green in others. And it looks like because you're overseeing both teams, I could get some reps and some understanding and learnings. She quickly took that in a couple months, said, hey, just slide over and run this team. So I'm learning a ton from the people under me. I'm very process oriented. I like to make sure that we're running as efficiently as possible so we can get content to the air quickly, so we can serve our fans. That's our mission statement, is to serve our sports fans anywhere, anytime. And so transition now into January, we become content business optimization. And that is our mantra, is to live in a state of continuous improvement and help our colleagues across different departments who are so ingrained in their need is to get content out and serve the fan. Let us help their back end workflow and processes and find efficiency and optimize them so that they continue to get great content churned out.
You've done a little bit of everything at ESPN, and you've worked some big-time events as well, including the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa. So going from Sarasota, Florida to Florence, Alabama to ESPN, and that took you to the World Cup as a soccer fan. Just how great was that?
Gig of a lifetime, for sure. Not only did I get to go to South Africa, the coordinating producer at the time, right before we left, she's like, you owe me, because she knew I was a soccer fan. She knew this was already a gig of a lifetime just to be able to work on the sport, let alone get to travel out there. And then she partnered me up with Ian Dark on our announce team. So I got to go 2 venues. I went to 20 different games. We called 19 as an announce team. So my role was to help Ian get prepared, make sure he was happy with whatever he needed, make sure he had the stats he needed. We had DVDs so he could watch games, really just make sure that he was prepared to call matches. And then the World Cup final, he was supposed to have his son come down from England, and his son didn't make it. So he had an extra ticket. And I was able to go to the World Cup final with him, his wife, and his other son. And it's just, I have so many vivid memories etched in my mind and all my pictures. So yeah, I don't know if a moment will top that. I don't even know if my children top that moment right now, but it certainly is a top professional moment for me.
That's great. What are some of the other big time memories, events that have stuck with you?
Yeah. Soon after the World Cup, I then transitioned into the full season for Monday Night Football. I worked on the tease unit. So we were basically the ones opening the show. It was a very high-end production. There were 2 producers who are so creative. We would do shoots with players and coaches. We would put it all together, edit it that weekend for premiere Monday night leading into the game. We'd cut halftime rollouts and then end-of-game rollouts. So I got to travel to every game for that. We worked the Orange Bowl, and then we did our wild card game as well that we had. So that's another memory, just because of the magnitude. Every production was a huge event. It wasn't like, I've worked college basketball games. You go in, you produce the 2-hour game, you walk out. But Monday Night Football, hundreds of workers every single week. You're on a big stage, everyone's watching. So that was another one that stood out to me. And then in programming, we got to go down to the Final Four. It's not something that as ESPN we're rights holders for the NCAA men's tournament, but we go down to the Final Four that weekend because all the conferences are there. It's a great place to have meetings, to check in with everybody. And so going to the Final Four and championship game for a couple years as well was an exciting moment as well.
Alison, an unbelievable career at ESPN. I know you're still going to do big things. Thanks for reminiscing about your time at UNA and updating us on what you're doing now.
Awesome. Thank you.